you're asking from
Right.
TDC.
The document that you have in front of you is sort of a description of that. I've put that out to about 6 different vendors or contractors. I have heard back from some of them, but I have to come up with, in order for the TDC, I have to come up with 3 proposals. So I talked to them, and it seems like I'm somewhere in the ballpark. We may need to tweak it in terms of whether we put a concrete pad for the Connex container to land on, or whether we just have it developed and leveled out and put some gravel down. We want a level spot to put that thing so that we can sort of strap it down and build that fence around it.
The only other question I have for you, Steve, do you know, and I'm sure you do, for sure that that fencing you described, the privacy fence and the chain link fence, is it on Lighthouse property and not on private?
It is on the Lighthouse. We have been.
We have surveys.
Yeah, we have survey. I have a survey of the property, and I'll provide that to that. And one of the bidders is the person that owns the property that's adjacent to it. So this fence will be attractive from both sides for him as well. So he should be in favor of it as well. So.
Okay, my only concern is if it were a neighbor's fencing, we'd want to make sure that we,
Put it on our side of the
Yeah.
line. Yes,
So-
yes, sir.
And the first thought with a privacy fence is a neighbor back there may have put the privacy fence up to try to block some view, but if it's on Lighthouse property, then we're covered.
I believe in the past, William was the one that actually maintained the wooden part of the fence, and the chain link fence, I think, hasn't been maintained at all since I've seen it. So,
Okay.
excellent. Thank you.
And just to point out that both of the History Museum and the Lighthouse Museum belong to the city, so we're just fronting the money to put
Right.
infrastructure on our property.
Okay, it's up to the board.
Do we need a motion to?
Yes.
Okay. I will make a motion to, what does it need to say?
To provide the funding to the Lighthouse Association for the TDC infrastructure grant.
And that
Reimbursement.
reimbursement, and that Dan will write
Write
us
up a memo of understanding.
Memo, yes.
And just to be clear, I have another application process. So once I get these 3 bids, I've got to go through the TDC, apply, they review it. I won't request a check until I have that process in place so that I know that it's moving forward.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Have a motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Walden. Madam Clerk, you have that motion? Okay. Any further comment or question? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
All right, my last thing, as Tamara mentioned, we received a letter from the DEP that the old water plant site rehabilitation for the Brownsfield has been complete, and there is no further action needed. So that, it's been a long time coming, and it's closed out.
That's super.
Yes.
Congratulations, Ms. Tamara. And Courtney, I might say on this last item that we didn't cover, that we've just voted on, one thing I'd like to comment on is Courtney and I did discuss it, so we do have the money in the budget to be able to front this project as requested by the Lighthouse Association. Okay. All right, Ms. Courtney,
That was all I have for my report.
any questions for Ms. Courtney? Okay, Ms. City Clerk, you're next.
I'm gonna just announce some upcoming meetings for public knowledge. As Courtney mentioned, we had the
July 12th,
July 12th at
11.
11?
11.
I think it's 11.
Correct.
Yep. The July 12th at 1:30 that we just voted on for the American Rescue Plan funds. The 19th at 1:30 is our CRA meeting, our regularly scheduled CRA meeting. The 21st is the regularly scheduled P&Z meeting at 2 o'clock. And then, of course, August 4th is our next City Commission meeting at 6.
Is that all, Ms. Keisha?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any questions for Ms. Keisha? If not, we'll move on to Inovia, Mr. Russell Large.
All right, thank you. For our DOT Small Communities Outreach Project, construction of 9th Street is nearly complete. There's some stabilization that they need to do for some of the dirt on the side slopes, but otherwise
Looking good.
paving looks good, yeah. The other additional road projects, we expect that they'll be scheduling those. I did contact North Florida for a schedule, and they hadn't gotten back with me yet. But I would expect them to begin on those projects directly. The schedule for the Tallahassee Street project is particularly important because we need to notify the public and the business owners especially. And I spoke with Courtney today. She had a good idea to ask if they can do that work after 4 p.m. to avoid the conflict with the businesses there. So we'll approach them about doing that work at 4 p.m. All right, on our lighthouse project, the contractor is focusing on the water main construction at this point. There are some valves that have been on back order. They're waiting for those to be delivered, and those are for the sewer system. So they're going to have to go back and cut in those valves on the sewer force main when those arrive. But that project is progressing on schedule. On our Marine Street CDBG project, I'm told the environmental document is expected to be approved within 30 days. So that project should be ready to let at that point. We talked about St. Joe's, continued coordination with them in the workshop on the 12th. And lastly is the new Carrabelle Cemetery. I'll cut to the bad news here. The seasonal high groundwater depth was found to be within 3 inches to 3.5 feet below the surface there. So those aren't the best conditions, to say the least, for a cemetery on that property. In other words, to excavate for a burial, I mean, it would likely have to be dewatered to do that, and then at that point, some kind of a ballast implemented to make sure that it doesn't float. There are options to go above ground. So we're doing some research to understand better what the suitability is of that site for a cemetery use. So for that reason, we did not implement the landscape architect's work as approved at the last meeting. So as we're able to gather some more information about the suitability and how that may be done, I'll report that back through Courtney and bring that to the commission.
Is that on all the property, or is there places that are higher than others that you could use?
There was one spot that that had a 3.5 foot depth to the water table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other boring locations. It was found to be at 3 inches. Wow. So now that's the seasonal high groundwater. So that's as high as it will get during the wet season. So it may be lower than that, but at some point during the year, it'll be that high.
That is a major concern,
Yes.
because underground burial, that's not gonna be popular, that spot.
Right.
Now, above ground, yes, but there's not that many above ground. I know there are areas, just like I visited one in, which was a historical site in New Orleans, Louisiana. It's all above ground. And the reason why, well, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
The water table there, and even during hurricanes, some of those have floated away. But they've dealt with that, and I didn't dream that we would be dealing with that.
Right.
But that's kind of disappointing, but I
There-
guess we still look at it, and we need to think about it and talk about it, see what we come up with. The school board was gracious enough to help us acquire that piece of property to expand our cemetery, but it doesn't sound like it's all that conducive. However, further exploration will we'll detail it and let us know.
Right,
But thank you, Russell.
right, sure
I have
thing.
a question for you, Russell.
Okay.
Is there any way possible that piece of property could be drained? I mean,
It would be very difficult. It would be very difficult. To
Well-
lower the groundwater table would take a considerable amount of time, and we'd have to have some mechanism to draw it down.
This-
So,
oh, okay. I didn't have my mic on,
okay,
but that'd probably be too expensive to.
right.
Just by knowledge there, Russell, there is a drainage ditch
Yep,
that runs along the edge of that property. And I don't know if it runs through it or not without looking at the survey and a picture of it and refreshing my memory. It comes off of Third Street. It actually drains from the stormwater pond adjoining the
Right.
cemetery across the road. And it used to drain that old low area, that swamp there, and actually it comes out right back up
Yeah.
here behind George Jackson's house and comes right down this creek right beside the city hall. However, that ditch, drainage ditch is grown over and filled in, and it's not performing very well. So it could be opened up possibly and help somewhat with it, but you're the expert.
yeah, I've seen that done, I've actually done it before, where, if you have, on the case I'm familiar with, the property sloped, had a pretty decent slope to it, but it also had some high groundwater that followed the contour of the ground. So we put in an under drain system on the uphill side and intercepted that water table and brought it around the property, which reduced the water table. But here it's so flat, I don't know that we have the ability to do it, at least not to the depth that we need.
You know,
Yeah.
across the street where the current cemetery's at,
Mhm.
do you have any idea what the water depth there is?
Well, I don't on the water depth, but the property is 4 feet, maybe 5 feet higher
Really?
than this property, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Just by common observation, it doesn't look like there's that much difference.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
wow.
If you ride Gray Avenue from west to east,
Yes.
you can see, you can visibly see there's a drop.
Well, actually, I've noticed some, but I didn't realize there was that much.
Right.
And I did realize from just being here and having knowledge of it, that was a football field and track field and what have you, that there were some damp areas
It was pretty
on that
wet.
property,
Mhm.
but I didn't realize that all of it would be like that. So. Anyway, we need to, we're getting tight
Yeah.
for having cemetery property available to the public. And do any of you commissioners have any ideas?
This is a tough one.
Yeah. So, Russell, are we at a dead end with it, or do you have a suggestion?
I don't have a high degree of confidence it's going to work.
Yeah,
In fact, I have a low degree of confidence
yeah.
that it would work.
Other than above ground.
Right.
What are we talking about, the different costs of having on top of the ground or down in it? I mean, is it gonna put a burden on the families?
I haven't looked into that, but I would imagine so. You're basically building a structure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know either.
something we'd have to look into.
Yeah.
One thing, I mean, everybody's obviously, like, let's call it burial customs, right, are all different. But I don't know that it would really be, I mean, Courtney or y'all could say, but I mean, I think of like my dad's buried in a columbarium, right, where he was cremated, and they put you in, they build a really nice structure out at Arlington, and it's obviously they keep it up real nice out there, but it's a big structure, and they put you in there, and then they have a spot for your wife, and I'm sure, would sure be able to do it for kids, everything, but then you gotta get cremated. And some people, which to me seems more common than ever, that people wanna be cremated, but we could build a structure out there, and obviously our job is to keep track of everything, and we sell spots in it to construct it, but we could have a beautiful columbarium type thing out there. And I always liked it because it's maintained, right? I mean, that one's maintained by the military or the government, but if the city's maintaining it, they're good. Like, to me, it's nice because you never worry that if you don't come back or whatever, it's gonna be neglected, you know? But just,
There's, right in line with what you're saying, Dan, I know that there's a privately owned cemetery north of Tallahassee, just north of Interstate 10, that is just as you described. I have relatives that are there in those columns that, where you
yeah.
described.
Yeah.
I analogized that it was like a post office box.
it looks just like
That there, yeah, there's a structure built there, and the person is cremated, and then you put that cremation box or ashes or whatever you want to call it into that column. And there is one out there, yeah. But that's privately maintained, and that's a pretty upgrade cemetery. Privately owned, yeah. Anyway, I don't know what to say on that.
A person who does, the concrete structures, the vaults that you often put burials into, you could contact them and find out the relative cost of a vault versus an overground structure, just to find out the, it's kind of the same thing in the sense of it's just on top of the ground, but it doesn't look pretty. The one they put in the ground doesn't have the pretty effects that you'd want if it was above ground. But it is, but the cost-wise, you could find out that.
But in the columbarium thing that I'm talking about, it is a big structure that
It
you
is.
put in. I mean, you could have 300 people
Yes.
in there, you know, or obviously deceased people in their ashes. So it's not as, I mean, again, some people that might not be what they want for their loved ones, but everybody has their thoughts on it.
Well, and I agree, and all those are ideas, and they're good ideas for some, but there's a lot of folks that are still traditional burial.
Yep.
And that seems to be more popular in our area, the traditional underground burial, than the above ground. Anyway, I'm just sitting here, my mind's going crazy with that, because we could offer above ground burial, but if that's the only thing we offer, a lot of folks are not gonna be, that's not gonna be what they want. And the structure that Dan's describing, like I saw up there north of Tallahassee, that could be built too, but there's some cost in that as well. And he's right, you can put lots of folks in a much smaller location. You don't need a 12 by 12 or whatever the size of those plots are. Currently at the cemetery, aren't they 12 by 12?
5 by 10.
5 by 10 or whatever they are, yeah. But anyway, commissioners, I guess we need to think about it, and we need to be focusing and kind of look in different options, because I we definitely don't have an answer tonight on where we can go. So.
All right.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Russell,
Okay, and that's all I had tonight.
that's all you had?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is a public hearing. Dan, was you wanting to cover that, or did?
I will.
Okay.
So this is the resolution that Tim had talked about earlier. It's a resolution 02-2022, a resolution authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a change in description to a public transportation grant agreement, project number 425610-4 with the Florida Department of Transportation, to provide 100% grant funding for the Carrabelle Thompson Airport stormwater upgrades by parallel drain to environmental permitting and mitigation for taxiway and hangar development. Whereas the city of Carrabelle agrees to change the description of project number 425610-4 from the Carrabelle Thompson Airport Stormwater Upgrades by Parallel Drain to Environmental Permitting and Mitigation for Taxiway Hangar Development. Whereas the City of Carrabelle needs 100% grant funding to mitigate the wetlands present on the site in order to initiate site work of the new taxiway and hangar facilities, whereas the Carrabelle City Commission wishes to take advantage of the generous offer of the FDOT to provide 100% of the funding to make these needed improvements to the Carrabelle Thompson Airport. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Carrabelle, Florida, assembled in regular meeting on July 7, 2022, that the mayor be, and she is hereby authorized and directed to negotiate and execute a public transportation grant agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation, document necessary to receive funding from the Florida Department of Transportation as follows. Florida Department of Transportation participation 100% or $100,000. City of Carrabelle participation 0%, $0. Project total cost $100,000. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be attached to the public transportation grant agreement between the City of Carrabelle and the Florida Department of Transportation when fully executed.
Okay, you've heard the reading of the resolution 02-2022 by the attorney, and also was mentioned by Tim Sullivan, our airport manager. And is there any comment or question from the board? Nothing. Tim, do you have any further comment? Okay. Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve Resolution 02-2022 by Commissioner Allen. Do we
I'll
have a
second.
second? Second by Commissioner Brown. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Okay, next quasi judicial hearing, none on the agenda. And next on the agenda under new business to be item number 1, discussion and possible action concerning parking along Marine Street and Tallahassee Street. Courtney, you want to lead that discussion?
Sure. Last month, we had Miss Kimberly Wallace here with Harry's Bar, and we had some discussion about the parking and the boats and the trailers coming in, they're parking in front of the businesses, and what could we do about that. So I got to looking into our city ordinances, and we already have an ordinance on the books, but it only allows for 1 hour parking. It allows for 1 hour parking, and it's on, I'll read a portion of it here. It's kind of confusing, but on the east side of Marine or Tallahassee Street, beginning at the intersection of Marine or Tallahassee Street and Avenue B South, and running along the east side of Marine or Tallahassee Street to the intersection of Marine or Tallahassee Street and the East Meridian Avenue, and also east along the north side of Avenue A South and for a distance of 150 feet. So we do have an ordinance, but I think that we do need to update the ordinance. That I don't believe personally that 1 hour is long enough, and it needs to be a more time. Dan and I have talked about the description, and he thinks we should leave it vague. If we leave it vague so that, you know, we can interpret it how we want to interpret it. But also, if we're looking at this parking ordinance, I'd like to see us put some no overnight parking, especially in front of the pavilion and the boat ramp area. I know last weekend there was cars that were parked in front of the pavilion, and they were there for 2 or 3 days, and they never left. And we've put signs out there before that say no overnight parking, but we do not have an ordinance enforcing that. So if we're gonna update the ordinance, let's go ahead and add that in there as well. So it'd be up to you guys where y'all wanna put the parking ordinance and for how long. And this already has a fine of $30 if y'all, you know, if you wanna leave it $30 or if you wanna increase that, or.
Well, there's more to the $30 fine. You could be jailed for 10 days.
$30 or
Be liable
imprisonment
for your
or
towed
of not
vehicle.
more than 10 days.
Right.
Or both.
Yep. And be liable.
This ordinance was enacted in 1968, so it's been a while. It's outdated.
Oh, my.
Okay, probably at this point, I'm just gonna venture to guess, and you board members chime in here, haven't had the opportunity to study, but what Courtney explained and to us at this time, and the same thing she and I discussed, I do agree that we probably need to update the ordinance. And I do agree with her that the parking at the pavilion, and just as an example, I just was watching it this past weekend, holiday weekend, and I noticed the same vehicles sitting at the pavilion for 4 days running. And they filled up that little old section right there, and no one gets the opportunity, and primarily, I can't say where they're going, but they're leaving their vehicles there, but I have my own assumption as to where they're going. But they're filling up those parking spots right there, and they may be there for days. So I do agree that we should have no overnight parking there. That's just my opinion. Now, the rest of you guys chime in as I finish, and no overnight parking at the pavilion.
Or the boat
And
ramp.
I'd also agree that the increase, my thought of it is the increase from 1 hour to 2 hour parking in front of the businesses may be more applicable in those areas as described, from 98 on Tallahassee Street to Meridian.
The way I'm looking at it, would be Meridian to 98 on the east side, and then 98 down 150 feet or so. That's, it's not
I
clear.
think the Avenue A is the road by the old tennis court.
Hairspray, or I think it's Hairspray, where.
Okay, yeah,
close
yeah,
off.
that, yeah.
But-
And then from the
But
other
the east
way.
side of Marine Street, for whatever distance we decide, maybe just to Avenue C.
At least Avenue B. That's where your businesses are.
C.
See,
C would be
C.
past Harry's.
Yeah, C, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm thinking that's where we really need to have this, was be from Meridian down to Avenue C right there, on the east side of the road.
Okay.
Or if y'all want to make it the west side too, but right now it's just the east side.
Well, what about your board members? Do y'all have any comments?
I've got
I'm
lots
all
of
for
thoughts.
it.
Do we,
Needs to be
are
up
we trying to make
more
a
than 1 hour.
permanent decision tonight, or do we need to have a
I
workshop?
would believe that if you could come up with some suggestions, and then Dan can work on this ordinance, and
An
we
ordinance
can
would have to
submit
be
it
read
out to
twice.
everybody and
Yeah.
get
Okay.
input. And
That's what I was gonna suggest, and that's, I thought I'd led into it, was for you to give your suggestions and your thoughts to Courtney, and we're actually in discussion here, so they're picking up on those ideas and thoughts at this time. And let Courtney and the attorney work on updating the ordinance. They can present it back to us, and we can work on it from there.
Okay,
Yeah,
Y'all-
I wouldn't wanna make a decision tonight, because there's parking issues that we need to think
yeah, it's a
about.
lot.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, we can come up with a draft and send it out, and then get your input on it and changes. How do y'all feel about the $30 fine and imprisonment? Do we want to imprison somebody for
I think we
parking?
need to adjust that to maybe $60 or $75, and, I mean, I don't think we should be imprisoning anyone for parking.
well,
That might be for habitual offenders.
yeah,
Lock them up.
I would,
You know, some people don't mind paying $30 just to be able to park down there for a couple days.
I would like to
Pretty good
see,
deal.
I would like to see input from the police chief on what his ideas may be, and the attorney on the monetary fines and the imprisonment, if you will, and the actual towing of the vehicle if necessary, and the owner paying the fees, et cetera. I read through that as well. And I'll stop because Commissioner Allen has some comments he'd like to make. Commissioner?
Well, the question I have is, how much, do we know how many are from local and out of town and then out of state?
Correct.
Because we get a lot of out-of-state people coming down here because they know this is one of the best fishing places there is.
Correct.
So I don't know. I don't have an answer, I just have a question.
Okay.
I think we have a start to work on something.
Okay. I think we can leave it at that if the board's agreeing there, that we can
That's
leave
good.
it with that and let staff work on it and bring back a proposal.
I have talked to several business owners
Yes.
downtown, and several have requested that we consider having, like, not assigned parking, but say, in front of my store, 2 spots allocated to Pirate Girls Treasures, and so on for each business, because a lot of times people are parking in front of one place for hours and not even going into that place. And so it's taking up a business's parking for their customers. But that has been brought up by several businesses downtown. Something
We
to
have
think
talked about this before, and it's problematic. And I
Uh-huh.
think possibly it's the reason for that old ordinance, right? It's very specific on the side of the street and the time period, meaning an hour, right? So to me, that was weird, right? A short time period, and it was on the east side. They're calling it that. But the bottom line is, it's hard on a public right-of-way to then take for a private business that these are your reserved spots on a public right-of-way. That gives us potential issues as a city. And I know we've all seen it, but it's in parking lots, right? It's in a parking lot, and they say this is for an EV vehicle, or this is for, dashing or picking up to-go orders or whatever. They can control that a little bit there, but it's harder for a city. Like it's hard to give spots to private businesses, but we can designate those spots and say, hey, you can't be here for more than an hour. And then if you have a habitual offender that's parking and leaving their car there for all day overnight, they can start getting tickets, and they'll learn their lesson, move along.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
when we're writing this new version, would we mention in there something about the trailer parking in the regular parking spaces, that is not allowed, it's double parking, or whatever it was we discussed?
It's actually
All
not
that
double
input, I think.
parking. The chief came back
What
and
is
said
it
that is
called?
not considered double parking. He says double parking is when they're parked side by side.
When they're taking up two parking spots parked in the middle, basically, is double
But
parking.
not long ways?
But not long ways. I can't wrap my head around that either,
But
but.
we could write into this that you can't park trailers,
I
cars
definitely
and
think
trailers
that
along
should be in
the
there,
road there.
because that's a huge problem downtown.
I'll bet.
Well,
Yeah.
and it is south of Avenue C.
This is double parked.
Yeah.
It's not him taking up two spaces long ways, but I don't know, y'all can't see that, but it's a picture of double parked cars.
Well, we address in different areas here. We're addressing from on Marine Street, we're addressing from 98th Avenue C. Okay? With the 2-hour parking. Am I correct, Courtney? Okay.
Well, if that's what y'all want, y'all can make it however, if you wanted to do.
Understand. And by doing that, you would eliminate those spots there. You would eliminate the possibility of a boat trailer and a truck combination parking in those spots right there close to Harry's that we think is double parking, which the chief says is not double parking, because it'd be 2-hour parking. However, when you go south of Marine Street, you have to be careful on the 2-hour parking, in my opinion,
They're
because
residences.
you have residents that live there in those condos that most of the owners park underneath the condos, but they have visitors, company, family that come in and park across on the east side in those single parking areas, and they're there longer than 2 hours. But the boat trailers and trucks have been consuming some of those spots, just like Keisha was saying and Courtney was saying. And somehow we have to probably address that at the same time we're addressing these issues here.
For the no overnight parking, I would like to see it at the pavilion, but also in the boat ramp parking.
Now, this is me, I'm in agreement on the pavilion. Now, boat trailer parking, I would have to give that a lot of thought, because there's many times that a weekenders coming down, they're gonna launch their boat on Friday, they're gonna go out and
Okay.
fish, they're gonna
think
stay
about that.
overnight. Some of those folks stay out overnight, and then they come back in the next day or the following day.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I'm not that lucky.
yeah. Anyway, I think we're gonna work on something, okay?
Yep.
All right. Any other discussion?
It's good for right now.
Okay, thank you, good discussion. Now, on that particular item, since it's on the agenda, I think we need a motion to table it. Do we not, Courtney?
I believe that would be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to table until the next meeting.
table or motion to have the attorney draft an ordinance?
Because we want to get some information from the chief.
Yeah, we want to get probably more information I certainly can, we can table it till next month. Courtney and I can work on preparing a draft to kind of chew on and make changes to. Doesn't have to be first reading.
That's kind of what I thought we were gonna do.
And the mayor says she'll have input on the parking, but there have been some good points made.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're gonna table it till next month?
There's more to discuss for sure.
So we won't be advertising for first reading next month?
Yeah. So go ahead,
So-
Commissioner Brown.
Ordinance on the books now.
Motion to table the parking issue until next month when we can gather more information.
Have a motion by Commissioner Brown to table this item till the next monthly meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Allen. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Item number 2, discussion and possible action regarding building official contract. Madam Clerk?
So when we hired the building official, it was for a 6-month contract. That was about 18 months ago.
About 2 years.
Yeah.
So we just need to tighten that up. And then he's also asking for a 10% increase for gas prices that have went up. So it'll go from $2,000 a month to $2,200
And it's going from a 6-month contract to a 1-year contract?
to a 1 year. Mhm.
I'll
Okay,
make do we need to discuss?
Just, yeah. That's the only thing that I saw, and after discussion with the city clerk, that the only thing that I saw different in the contract was the increase and the term of the contract. All other parts of the contract were the same. So with that, Commissioner Brown, did you have a,
I was just making a motion to approve.
okay. Have a motion to approve the request as stated by the clerk
I'll second
for the
that motion.
10% increase and the increase from a 6-month contract to a 1-year contract? Yep. Have a motion and a second
I'll
by
second it.
Commissioner Walden.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you. Old business, we have none. Next thing on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to comment or have anything they'd like to talk about? Anyone in the audience?
Going once,
Yep.
going twice.
Okay. Folks, no comment from the audience. If there's nothing else we have on it, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
You've got it. I made to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Allen,
Second?
second by Commissioner Brown. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank y'all. Good meeting.